Aw, shit. Aw, it's Real Monsters. I totally fucked that up, but that's definitely a Nickelodeon show for all you 90s kids out there that were born in the same era as I was. So, how's it going, everyone? And welcome to another episode of Top 5 Saturdays Live. I'm one of your co-hosts, Chase Lee, and on this week's episode, Brian and I will take a look at the top 5 monster films in honor of Thomas Creuilius III and his starring role in the ever so hotly anticipated The Mummy 2017 version, because there are so many goddamn versions. Okay, so that's what we're doing this week. So can I get a monster roar, please? Well, that was fucking embarrassing. Anyways, what will we put on our top 5 list? You're gonna have to sit down, relax, and find out. What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Top 5 Saturdays Live with me, Chase Lee, and my co-host,
Brian Sutfield.
That's fucking right. And hey, listen, if you're new to the show, welcome. What we do on this show is we take a look at the movies coming out on Friday, and we will pick a movie, and we want to honor, an actor or actress from that movie, or the genre, or what have you, and we will make a top 5 list according to that, and just kind of put that movie on a pedestal, and really just kind of showcase it. The cool thing about the show is that it's live, so we have no idea what the hell's going to come out of our mouths, hence the title, and we don't know each other's list, and since this genre has been around since the goddamn, 30s, where it was popularized, I have no idea what's going to be on our list. But anyways, it's we have to get the introductions out of the way, and people have to know that Brian's alive and doing well. So Brian, how are we doing this week?
I'm good this week. I see it comes at night in 5 hours, so hell fucking yes, hallelujah. So yeah, it's a pretty good week. I might get another job, so I have an interview tomorrow, so that's good. But other than that, yeah, it's a pretty good week. How are you, Chase?
Well, to comment on the It Comes at Night, I saw that Monday, and my review will go up on my channel tomorrow at noon. Now, the embargo has lifted, but I figure I'd spread that out from my Mummy review, so I'm glad that I'm not going to tell Brian what I thought about it. I want him to just go see it, and then we can talk about it later. But it's another week in the neighborhood. I saw It Comes at Night on Monday, The Mummy on Tuesday, and now I'm recording this lovely show for you guys on Wednesday. It's been a very good week thus far. That's right. So if you're listening to this on Saturday, congratulations. You're hearing our voices from the past. Brian and I might be dead at this point, so this is what you're going to get, as your last episode. Anyways, Brian, what are we doing this week? It almost seems like there's a monster movie coming out, and we might be doing that.
Yeah, The Mummy comes out in theaters this week, and we are going to be talking about our favorite monster movies, or films if you're nasty, of course. So yeah, monster movies. I'll be honest, I'm not really a big monster film fanatic. I've seen plenty of them, and they are fun to watch, but there aren't really many that have grasped me to the point where I'm like, oh, I love these movies, except for the films in my top 5. The ones in my top 5 I think are fantastic monster movies and movies in general.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest, most of the categories that we've done, most of the genres we've done, actors, directors, what have you, I'm very well versed in them, well rounded with them. Monster movies, not so much, but I'm still looking forward to doing this because, like I said, 5 films I put on my list I think are pretty fantastic movies, and I'm excited to talk about the particular films I put on my list.
Yeah, I remember when Brian said he wanted to do this, I was like, holy shit, we got to comb through almost 100 years to, really see, what we've seen, what we like, and, whatnot. So, yeah, the thing with monsters and that type of genre is that just like with Brian, I've seen my handful of them. I've seen a lot of them. It's not my favorite genre, but when I do see one that's really good and sticks out, I'm going to remember it forever. And in case, these 5 are the ones that have really kind of stuck with me as master classes of their work. One of them might be questionable for some people, but whatever. This is my fucking list. I'm really excited to kind of delve deep into monster movies. And just to give you guys like a full warning, I am not into those like straight up just like monster movies like a Godzilla-ish where it's just a monster tearing apart a city. I like monster movies with a little bit more substance, a little bit more kind of character depth, and that's what I kind of did in terms of choosing my stuff. I think, well, one of them could argue to be just a creature-killing movie, but I like it because it's a little bit more advanced technically than some of these other films nowadays, so... I like a little bit more diversity in my monster films and really just kind of get into the core of the characters and really like what makes a monster truly a monster. So, without further ado, let's begin this shit. I'm excited to talk about shit. I have no idea where we're going to go with any of these movies, by the way. Because I don't know if Brian's going to go more old school, more new school. I have no clue. Brian, let's start with you. Number 5. What is your favorite monster film of all time so far?
For number 5, I decided to put the one where there's a monster terrorizing the city. My number 5 is Cloverfield.
Good pick. Listen, if I had to pick the one movie to really kind of turn me into the monster genre, it was Cloverfield. I still remember it came out, I think, the weekend of my 18th birthday. I saw it, and I was like, holy shit, like, this is how good monster movies can be, but it was really tough. Like, I had to Hunger Games my options, and I had to, like, kill a bunch of them very violently, because I was like, this is a tough fucking list to do, but Cloverfield is a great pick.
Yeah, Cloverfield, when I saw it, I was pretty impressed with it, and I thought it was a really clever monster movie. It was found footage, it was a little different from the monster genre. And at the time when this movie came out, this is when the found footage started to come back into the realm because Paranormal Activity have come out. And then they made this movie. It was directed by Matt Reeves, who later went on to direct Let Me In, which is great. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and obviously War for the Planet of the Apes comes out in July. And then he's going to be helming The Batman, if, DC decides to keep him, of course. No, Cloverfield was pretty spectacular, and I remember I didn't see this in the theater because I was a really young kid when this came out. I was 2008, and it says January, so I turned 10 that March. So I didn't see this in the theater. I think I caught it on like FX or something, and it was really enthralling, really terrifying, really well done. And I remember when I was a kid, when I saw the first Transformers and they played the trailer for this, and I was like, that looks really cool. But, knowing my mom, she probably won't let me see this, so, fuck me, right? But it was a pretty awesome premise. You have these, like, New York residents, and they flee from a giant monster who we don't see for a while, and then we see it, and it's just really cool. It was shot on a $25 million budget, and it earned $170 million, and then obviously they decided to make a spin-off called 10 Cloverfield Lane from last year, which was absolutely fantastic. It's still on its own. Then God Particle comes out sometime this year, and I'm looking forward to that for sure. I'm interested to see what they're going to do in this Cloverfield universe. But for a found footage monster movie, Cloverfield did a pretty good job, and Drew Goddard wrote it. Drew Goddard's the guy who wrote and directed Cabin in the Woods, which is another fantastic monster movie. Didn't put it on my list, but it's really fucking good. And he wrote The Martian, Oscar-nominated script, so, good for him. Created Daredevil, so the guy's done a lot. And Cloverfield's pretty fucking incredible, and it's my number 5.
Yeah, that was also, I still remember sitting in the theater. That was also my first time I ever saw the Bad Robot logo from J.J. Abrams' company, which was that. And also, I remember in front of Cloverfield was a teaser for Star Trek, no J.J. Abrams movie. So that was just a fun experience in general. Cloverfield is a really well-done found footage movie. It's not this type of found footage movie that's just so chaotic with the cinematography to where you can't really tell what's going on. It's just the right amount of shake, just the right amount of, immersive experience to really kind of throw you into the situation with these people running around from this giant fucking creature. I love the fact that they're doing this kind of type of universe where they have these like kind of off stories that have really no correlation with the previous movie, but they're still set within this universe where these monsters are kind of walking around. I love 10 Cloverfield Lane, and I cannot wait for God Particle. I just want to see them kind of do these Elseworld type of stories around the world, on Earth or whatnot. So I'm really excited to kind of see where they go with it. But Cloverfield is a great fucking pick. I couldn't do it, but my only modern pick is my number 5, and it's actually the only pick that came out during my I guess living, my 27 years of living. Everything else beyond that is before I was born. So if that gives you any hint to where I'm going to go, I think you know. So my number 5, I wanted to do at least one modern one, right? And so I was thinking about doing Cloverfield because I really fucking enjoy that film. However, you guys know me. I love myself some dark fucking endings. And I also really like when it's not actually about the monsters, but more about kind of the monsters within humans and how humanity is kind of monstrous sometimes. Which, by the way, I could have put a certain film on there just now describing that, but I don't consider it a monster film now. But, okay, anyways, back on track. So this film, dark ending, not about the monsters, more about the humans. I would actually consider it one of my favorite Stephen King adaptations. I actually really like The Mist. I like The Mist quite a bit. And if you guys have not seen The Mist, I would highly implore you to watch it. Yes, is some of the CGI questionable? Yes, it is. But it's a really great kind of isolation movie where you have all these people stuck in the supermarket while this kind of mist rolls into town. Someone goes out there to try to get in their car. They get pretty much chewed up by these, Elseworld creatures that came in through a portal. And, it's just really about the people stuck in that supermarket, and it really just kind of intensifies. It's really got really great suspense, and it deals a lot with like religion and whatnot, surprisingly. And at the end is one of the darkest endings I've ever seen in a film, period. And it really will just make it so much more devastating when it happens, and you're like, wow, they really went there. But it was effective. So it's a really great horror film. Thomas Jane plays the lead role, and good old Marcia Gay Harden, you just want to punch throughout the entire movie. But yeah, I really enjoyed it quite a bit. Probably one of my favorite Stephen King films, if not my favorite, definitely top 3. So I'm going to go 2007's The Mist.
Yeah, it's a pretty good pick. Not my favorite Stephen King adaptation, but it's pretty damn good. And yeah, only seen it once, haven't seen it in forever. But coming from a non-horror junkie, starting to become one, I'm starting to appreciate a lot more now than I did like a year or two ago. It's pretty fucking good. Good pick.
Yeah, if you want to think of it as like a really like cheesy B science fiction film with some really great character moments and a really great ending, that's pretty much a way to describe it. Because like I said, the CGI is so bad that it almost feels like one of those like Ed Wood type of movies, like from back in the day. But also, it's got some, like I said, really good moments. So, but I think as an overall package, it's really well handled. So, all right. So, what do you got for number 4?
I got another B movie type of deal, and it's pretty underrated. It's directed by someone who has a movie in theaters right now as we speak, and this guy, most people know him for directing something that's bigger budgeted and involved in some big cinematic universe. My number 4 is Slither, directed by James Gunn in his directorial debut.
Not gonna lie, I totally forgot about that movie. Like it's one of my favorites, and I would put it on my list, but I think I went more of the classic route. I'll just say that. So, but I mean, Slither, make no mistake about it. I've told Brian this, and I've told many people this. I like the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise quite a bit, and I think James Gunn really knows what he's doing, and he is definitely that crazy motherfucker who read the comics as a kid, because there's no way that a director that did not read the comics creates those types of movies. But I will say this. His earlier work, whether you're talking Super or Slither, and even some of his other like kind of like low-budget horror films, I actually like those movies more than his Marvel movies. And Slither was my first introduction to him, and it was such a fun ride. It literally reminded me of like, The Thing from Outer Space, or the Worm from Outer Space, the Killer Condoms from Outer Space, like that type of like cheesy vibe, and was also my first introduction to Elizabeth Banks and Michael Rooker. So.
Yeah, Slither is a pretty incredible, underrated movie. It didn't do well at the box office, but critically did extremely well. Super's another great one, and I like what he does with Guardians of the Galaxy as well, but I like his smaller work a little bit more than his bigger budget work. And make no mistake, the Guardians of the Galaxy films are both really strong. Like, I really loved the first one, and the second one was really good, so... Slither, though, is pretty incredible. It's a sci-fi horror comedy. A small town is taken over by a plague, and then turns residents into zombies. And then all these monsters are formed as well. And yeah, Elizabeth Banks is in it, Nathan Fillion, Michael Rooker. It's really fucking funny, really smart.
It's really funny.
It's really funny. It kind of reminded me a bit of an Edgar Wright film of sorts, mixed with like older classic horror, and it was just so much fun. Like, I remember when I watched this, because my first exposure to James Gunn was the Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one, and then I decided to watch his earlier work, and Super really impressed me, and Slither, I've always been a horror comedy fanatic. Like, I love actual, genuinely terrifying horror, but when you mix it with comedy, if it works well, it works very well, and this one is a perfect example of it. Like, if you want to watch a bunch of awesome horror comedies, Slither is one of them. And when you do see the monsters, they are pretty terrifying to look at. I mean, yeah, they are funny looking, but deep down, they're actually really scary. And I could tell that watching this movie, everybody had a blast with it. I wish more people saw this movie when it came out. This was one of those movies that, like, if I was my age, 11 years ago, like if I was 19 years old in 2006, or if I was old enough to go see this movie, I totally would have gone to see it. I love B movies and everything, and they are somewhat making of a comeback, and when they are great, they're great, and Slither, without a doubt, is one of them. Like, this is an incredible movie, clever monster movie, and yeah, I just really love it, and I wish I got it in my collection, but I don't, unfortunately. But yeah, if you guys love the Guardians of the Galaxy and you want to watch other films from James Gunn, you gotta check out Super and Slither, especially Slither, because it is a hell of a blast to watch.
Yeah, like that part, like I'm not going to spoil anything, but Brian knows what I'm talking about. There's a part at the very end with Michael Rooker's, let's just say, covered in makeup, and he tries to like be so sincere, and like he looks really gross, and you're like, yeah, it's so goddamn funny. But yeah, if I had to pick 3 horror comedies that are my favorite from like Bryan and I's generation, it's always been the same 3 until something comes along that kicks one of them out of the place. But it's always Slither, Cabin in the Woods, and Shaun of the Dead. Those have always been my 3 favorite horror comedies from our generation thus far, and I truly mean that. Like, Slither was such a fun movie to watch, because I actually own like Killer Clowns from Outer Space. And it's so fucking bad and cheesy. Like, Slither is an homage to that, and it still has some really great production quality. So it's trying to be like that B movie, but it's still great quality. So Slither, great pick. Speaking of things that shouldn't get into your head, I guess, 1982. I was not born at that time. I was born in 1990, so basically all my picks from this point on all came out before I was even existed. And I didn't see this movie until the first time until I was a teenager, and then I recently saw it in theaters on the big screen for the very first time, like on the big screen, last year. And it was such an amazing film to watch. It still holds up. I love the effects in it. I'm going with John Carpenter's The Thing. Basically, this is Alien set in the Antarctic. You know how Alien takes a creature, throws them up in space with a space crew. They have nowhere to run. It's the same way here. There's these researchers out in the Antarctic, and this thing comes along and infects something. I'm not gonna say who or what gets infected first, and it starts to kind of burst out of that thing and go to kill people. But I really like the atmosphere of it. But then again, I like most of Carpenter's movies. He really knows how to capture this kind of dread that kind of plagues throughout the movie. I love, all the characters within it. They all seem genuinely terrified by this thing. And, on top of all that, the practical effects and the makeup are so creepy and gross and bloody. And I just absolutely love the practical creature design in this. It's just definitely something that I will always remember. And I love all the violence in it. It's just it just harkens back to those classic monster movies, and this is a remake, and a lot of people tend to forget that, but it is based off of I believe the first thing came out in the 50s. It's the definitely one with Vincent Price, I believe, or no, wait, am I thinking of something else? I know it came out in the 50s, I believe, but anyways, it is a remake within itself. But I think this one just kind of takes it to a whole nother crazy level. And on top of all that, like I said, the dreaded atmosphere is really just palpable, and I really just love this whole movie from start to finish. And of course, come on, it's Kurt Russell. I mean, come on, it's fucking Kurt Russell with his fucking 80s hairdo. He can do no wrong. That man just always looks good no matter what generation he's in. But it's definitely one of my favorite movies of his. For sure, if I had to, make a list or whatever. So my number 4 pick is 1982's The Thing.
The Thing is fucking spectacular. John Carpenter is the fucking king. Halloween and The Thing are without a doubt my 2 favorite things he's ever done. Big Trouble in Little China 2, I love that. They Live is great. The guy's a visionary master, and I wish he would continue making films. The Thing, without doubt, is one of the most terrifying things I've ever watched in my life. It's a great combination of sci-fi and horror. The idea of it being set in Antarctica is the perfect place to set it because, when you're alone in an icy continent, country, whatever, it's terrifying. And Carpenter is the king. And I agree. Kurt Russell is he's wonderful. Kurt Russell, no matter what time period he's in, he's always good looking. He is a fucking king, and I'm happy that he's making a comeback with Bone Tomahawk, The Hateful Eight, the Fast and Furious movies, and now Guardians. He's just a lucky man. Goldie Hawn's she's a lucky woman. Kurt Russell's the fucking best.
Well, she's lucky in her real life, not career-wise as of late. But,
absolutely.
But yeah, Kurt Russell, he's the man. It was so fun to watch it on the big screen, just see him walk on screen. He hasn't changed a bit. He still has the same type of acting style and whatnot. And it's one of those ones that also is very effective because The Thing is actually not seen that much. It's actually hidden in a bunch of shadows and whatnot for the most part. There's a couple times where it's revealed, but I like that because you don't know where it's at. You don't know where it's going to be next. It's kind of like with Ridley Scott's first Alien film. When that thing, when the little xenomorph bursts out through the chest or whatever and just kind of scurries off, you're sitting there the entire time thinking, where the hell is this thing at? And so you become paranoid, and that's exactly what happens in The Thing. You don't know what's happening. You don't know, if it's hiding, in the next room. You don't know if it's outside. It's terrifying that way. And I love horror films when they do that. So, my number 4, The Thing. Brian, what is your number 3?
The year was 1986, and this was a time where these 2 lead actors were very popular. They were both well-regarded actors, but then they started rising to fame in the 90s. Both of these wonderful people. The main man of the movie, I still consider him to be one of the greatest people ever created. The man's name is Jeffrey Goldblum, and the film is The Fly, directed by Mr. David Cronenberg.
Okay, just let everyone know, this has not happened in a while, but we have the same pick in the same slot.
Oh, thank God. I was hoping this was on your list too. Thank God. Okay.
You know what's really funny is I actually didn't see it for the first time until last year. I've always heard of it, and I love Cronenberg to death. Videodrome is amazing. History of Violence is really good. Eastern Promises. Basically with anything Viggo Mortensen in the modern era. And then, of course, some of his older stuff, I saw Naked Lunch. I thought that was fascinating. But I never had seen The Fly and there's a pawn store down the road from my house, and I went there, and they had it for $3 on Blu-ray, and I was like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna get it. So I got it, and I watched it that night, and I was absolutely blown away. It was basically a more fucked up graphic version of Frankenstein.
Yeah,
and I'm totally down for it. And just like with The Thing, and I'll let Brian go first, is the fucking practical effects are out of this world. So good.
Yeah, the best thing about The Fly easily is the effects and the makeup. This makeup is incredible. It looked so real. Like, it won the Oscar, and
yeah, rightfully so.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know who did the makeup for this. It felt, when I was watching it, and I don't think it was this guy, it felt like Rick Baker makeup. Like, it felt so practical, and it was just amazing. Like, for a film that came out 31 years ago, this makeup holds up extremely well. Like, it's really well done. And, I fucking love Jeff Goldblum a lot. I think he's one of the greatest treasures in Hollywood. And this is one of my favorite performances he's ever given. He is so fucking fantastic here. He is a guy, he's a scientist who's so eccentric about his work. And then one of his experiences goes wrong, and then he slowly turns into a fly. Like, it's insane. And the progression of it's actually really heartbreaking. And
it's a love story. A lot of people tend to forget that.
Yeah, him and Gina Davis, who at the time I think were a couple. I think they were married, and she's another Hollywood treasure. Obviously she was in Velma Louise and a few other awesome films. This is off topic. The other night, I don't know why I was watching this. I saw it, and I'm just like, I want to watch Stuart Little again, because that was a childhood classic of mine. And then I found the sequel on HBO Go, so then I watched that as well. So it was just kind of weird. Gina Davis right now is on my mind, because I just watched those two movies, and it's just, listen, I don't care what people say. The Stuart Little films, the two theatrical ones, are fucking underrated. I'm sorry, okay?
Fucking Dr. House is in the first one. It always freaks me out when I see Hugh Laurie. I'm like, why are you in this?
I know, it's so weird, because he's like a Greg Brady type of guy.
Yeah.
So it's like kind of weird and awkward. And then you watch House, and you're like, oh, okay. It's so weird. That's Stuart Little.
So speaking of Stuart Little, this is what happens, folks. We go off topic sometimes, but I haven't seen it in a long time. Michael J. Fox does the voice, right?
Yeah.
He totally fits like the mouse body too. Like, his voice like exudes like a mouse, and so like it's perfect.
Yeah, I agree. But no, The Fly, it's, like you said, it's a love story, and it's really heartbreaking and touching. It's really compelling, and I would consider this to be my second favorite Cronenberg movie after History of Violence. Like, that to me is the best thing he's ever done. Like, that is my favorite film he's done. And then this easily is another one of my favorites.
You need to watch Videodrome. Like, that is a mindfuck of a movie.
I do want to watch Videodrome for sure. I think I was supposed to watch it in my screenwriting class, but instead my screenwriting professor showed us Scanners, which I thought was fucking terrible. I thought it was really bad, personally.
I forgot.
I wasn't into it. I mean, it had some cool moments, but in the end, I was just like, it's whatever. But no, The Fly is incredible. It still sticks with me to this day. A great combination of sci-fi and horror. Jeff Goldblum's fantastic performance. Should have kind of gotten maybe some buzz. I'm still shocked that this guy doesn't have an Oscar for, anything. I'm excited for him to play Ian Malcolm again in Jurassic World 2. I hope they don't waste him in the movie. I hope they don't do what they did with him in Independence Day 2, because that would be depressing. Obviously, he's going to be in Thor Ragnarok. And the new Wes Anderson movie. So, yeah, but The Fly is incredible. Just absolutely delightful. It still sticks with me. And I saw it at Best Buy a few months ago for a good price, but at the time I was really poor. Poor college student, ladies and gentlemen. And I couldn't buy it, but you know what? When I get the chance, and if I see it for a good price, I'm so picking it up, because it is fucking spectacular.
Yeah, no, if you find a pawn store for $3, get it. It's a steal. It's a great deal. Yeah, I saw it for the first time last year, and I could not believe I waited until this long. But Jeff Goldblum, he's like the perfect actor for this role. Like, you have this scientist who's very career driven. He's very skittish. He's very driven to do his work. He's oblivious to like the world around him. He's oblivious to like his girlfriend played by Gina Davis, and you see that obsession in his work. And when he starts to deteriorate like a fly, he really starts to worry for his life. And Gina Davis tries to help him, and when you watch all the way to the very end, it's a tragedy. It almost plays like fucking Shakespeare. Like it's actually like really good at the very end on how tragic this situation becomes. And I think this is the one I was thinking of when I was talking about The Thing. Vincent Price was in the original Fly. I remember that. That's probably what I was thinking of. But I have never seen that version, and people tend to forget Cronenberg. His version is a remake. I remember them talking about them doing a Fly remake again. I'm actually okay with that because I think after like 30 years, 20 to 30 years, it's fine to do a remake. If it's terrible, at least we got the Cronenberg version. But I think that one, like I said, it's basically like Frankenstein. It's just more graphic and fucked up, but it definitely kind of plays along with those like human emotions like in Frankenstein. So I think that's what makes it worth it for sure. If you have not checked out The Fly from Cronenberg, 1986, please check it out. You're in for a treat. Now we're getting to our top 2, guys. This is really fascinating because I told you guys at the beginning of the episode I'm going more old school. So you can probably determine that I went a little bit more classic, if you will, in probably my top 2. Rightfully so. I think they're, really kind of paved the way for, movies that we have today. But I'm really curious to see what Brian put on his top 2. So, Brian, can you give us some knowledge, give us some wisdom? What is your number 2?
Okay, 1981, a horror comedy, another one because I fucking love horror comedies. Is a combination of 2 different countries. And this guy is best known for directing a plethora of classic 70s and 80s comedy movies. He's directed some horror movies, and he even directed some videos for the wonderful Michael Jackson. The director's name is Johnny Landis, and my number 2 pick is An American Werewolf in London.
Interesting. I don't think I've ever seen that one, but I've seen the famous transformation scene online with makeup done by Rick Baker, which is a very awesome transformation scene, but I have not seen the movie in context to it. I just have seen that scene. But go ahead and tell me and everyone listening why this is one of the best.
I just love 80s comedies in general. John Landis, this is the same guy that made Animal House, which is one of the best college movies ever made. I just saw it for the first time a few months ago, and it was incredible. Also, he made Trading Places. He made The Blues Brothers. So he's worked with a lot of awesome people from the 80s, Dan Aykroyd, Eddie Murphy, John Belushi. And, he's directed a bunch of other movies, too. Like, he made Three Amigos, and the last movie he directed, I don't remember the last thing he made, but also, the guy's ventured into some television, and he's just a master from the 80s. American Werewolf in London, you have these 2 guys who do a holiday in England, and then they get attacked by a werewolf, and one of them is killed, and then the other one, he transforms into him. It's awesome. It's an awesome movie. It's really funny, dark comedy at its finest. Really terrifying sequences. Like Chase said, the transformation sequence is absolutely incredible. Rick Baker is a masterclass. Man, this guy, he actually won the first Oscar for makeup. Like, this was the first film to win the Oscar for best makeup. And, it became a cult classic within the latter years. And it's so awesome because this was John Landis' follow-up to Animal House. I actually know the Blues Brothers, and you wouldn't have expected a guy to follow up a comedy like that with this. Like, this is just awesome. And, apparently, I think I was on your show when you brought up there's going to be a remake of this, which I'm not all for personally. First of all...
let's get something straight. I'm okay with the remake. I'm not okay with nepotism.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
Apparently, his son, Max, is going to write and direct and all that stuff, and I don't... Just stop it. Fucking stop it. I don't mind a remake because I want to see like a different version of it. I just want to see a different director.
Yeah, I totally get that. And I mean, I don't know, like, they tried continuing the story with an American Werewolf in Paris, which was really, really bad. You know, it didn't have any of the people in it, none of the cast members. It had Tom Everett Scott and Julie Delpy. You know, Julie Delpy, everybody should know from the Before trilogy, and then Tom Everett Scott. You know, he's been in a few movies. He was recently in La La Land, but it just really wasn't that good. So personally, I don't know if I want a continuation of the story. I mean, sure, I agree. If they do a different take on it, that would be cool. But I just don't know how I feel, especially with the whole nepotism thing. But in American Werewolf in London, it's just so well done. You know, for a horror comedy from 30 years ago, it still holds up. I believe it's on Netflix. It clocks in at a very short running time of, I believe, 97 minutes. Flies by really quickly. It's incredible. It's my favorite work of John Landis, tied with Animal House. And yeah, The American Werewolf in London is my number 2. It's just so fucking good. And a lot of people don't talk about it really anymore, and people should, because it is one of my personal favorite horror movies of all time. So yeah, American Werewolf in London is my number 2.
Yeah, like I said, I've seen the transformation scene on YouTube, and it's a really well done scene. I just need to see the movie that surrounds that scene. And I'll get to it eventually, but yeah, especially if they remake it, I'll definitely want to like go revisit it or whatnot. But I always like traditional monster movies and whatnot. I think the only Wolfman movie I've ever seen, I've never seen the original, was the 2010 Benicio del Toro one. That was kind of forgettable, but whatever. All right, my number 2. The year, 1933. I was 10 years old back in the day. No, that'd be terrible, because, no, I'd be fucking 80-something years old if I was born that year. Jesus Christ. 1933 is when this came out. I saw this movie in film school. Actually, I saw both my top 2s in film school, and they still continue. Oh, no, I saw my number 1 in high school. But anyways, number 2. This one pretty much showed me how good monster movies were back in the day, when you had no CGI, you had to use all practical sets, you had to use stop motion, you had to use clay figures, you had to use props. My number 2 pick, I was really never into the Godzilla films, as crazy as some people are. I like the 2014 remake, and I'm excited to see the universe. But the first one I ever did see of bigger monsters that I've really enjoyed and has really stuck with me is the classic tale of King Kong. I mean, there's really nothing more you can say. It was one of the first of its kind. My top 2 picks arguably could be the first 2 that were like commercial hits, like commercial successes to really kind of propel this monster genre. But King Kong is a classic for a reason. Like I said, I told you guys there was a certain theme to my picks, in terms of I don't really care about the monsters themselves. I care about the monster, attitude within humanity, and kind of the compassion of some humans versus others. King Kong's a great example of that. We have this giant ape who is brought back to New York City in a caged environment, breaks free, and we have this, blonde woman that tries to speak to him and really kind of show the compassionate attitude that some humans can carry with them, and not just, kill all the time. So she really kind of shows the love that humans can portray. It's got some, pretty groundbreaking stuff from back in the 30s when you want to talk about some of the sequences, like when he's on top of the building, iconic shot with the planes going around him and stuff. It's just a really well told story. Really not about like I said, the monster, bang him up, smashing buildings and whatnot. Just more of how humans can portray, or how humans can cage animals up and really kind of be cruel monsters themselves, and really kind of show that not everything that's 100 times bigger than you is going to kill you. So like I said, classic for a reason. Black and white. I'm going with the OG 1933 King Kong.
I have not seen the OG King Kong movie. I have seen the 70s one, starring Jeff Bridges, Jessica Lange, and Charles Grodin.
Too bad. That one's
It's not. And And I personally think the 2005 one, the one directed by Peter Jackson, is incredible. And the cool thing is, that one is a basic homage to the original one from the 30s that you just brought up.
Exactly.
And because it takes place in that time period, it's basically the same premise and everything. And
it's a little too long. That's the only gripe I have. It is a little too long.
That's the only fault of the movie, is that it's way too long. But it's so well done. That was his follow up to Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I was going to say that fucking dope T-Rex King Kong scene. Holy shit!
Oh god!
I wish we would have got that in fucking Skull Island, but we didn't.
I know. Ugh, gross. But yeah, King Kong. I mean, it was understandable why it's on the list. I would love to watch the OG. I hope I see. I'm sure they're going to show some OG monster movie to me in film school. I don't know when. I'm sure hoping they do it soon. But yeah, it's understandable why you would so pick that one, because it stands on its own and it's an essence of time. Like, it's something really spectacular, especially for the time it came out. It came out 84 years ago, so it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it holds up for a reason. And when I get to my number one pick, it's actually older than that one. So there's a reason why Universal will always cling on to these monster movies and whatnot, because they're the ones that started it off. They're the ones that really kind of propelled these monsters and their genres and their respective films and whatnot. And there's a reason why people like them. So yeah. So that's my number two. I'm really curious now. Can you give me any hint whatsoever on your number one?
It's
without giving it away.
No matter what hint I give, it's gonna give it away. That's the problem.
Is there a year you can give me a release, or is that gonna give it away?
Could I say decade?
Yes.
70s.
Ooh. Oh yeah. That's really 70s shit. I don't know. I never really talked to you about this genre. Are you a fan of the Godzilla films, I guess? So is it a Godzilla film?
No, it's not a Godzilla movie.
Oh shit. Well, dude, I have no clue. Like, I don't know any no monster movie from the 70s is ringing in my head. So what is your number one?
I picked probably the most generic one, and it's rewatching it not too long ago. It made me realize, this is one of the more special films ever made, and as a filmmaking major, it's really influential. I had to go with Alien. It's Alien to me is probably the best one ever made,
Gotcha.
and even though it's not my favorite one, it's probably the best one ever made. It's Ridley Scott, this was his first film, and he's one of the stuff. Some of my favorite movies of all time. I love Blade Runner. I love American Gangster. I think that's his most underrated movie of his catalog. I like Prometheus. I really liked Alien Covenant. I know a lot of us YouTubers weren't really fond of it, and I
that movie is
but
flopping so hard on its dick right now. I can't believe it's crashing and burning right now.
I know, and it's really depressing because, I liked it. A lot of my coworkers liked it because I worked at a movie theater, and we all really enjoyed it. I mean, I didn't think it was a perfect movie, but, it had its flaws, but I still thought it was a really well-done movie. The Martian, of course, he's done, and, Gladiator. The guy's a visionary, and Alien, for a movie that came out 38 years ago, it still stands on its own. It's so well done,
Brian, please tell
terrifying.
me that you had as much fun as I did. I definitely marathoned all 5 of them, and it was so much fun to watch.
I did the same thing. I really enjoyed watching this one and the second one. Alien 3: The Assembly Cut was, it wasn't bad. It was good. It wasn't good. Special. Resurrection could go suck a big flopping dick.
Woo,
that was so fucking terrible.
That one's rough.
Listen, Sigourney was a cougar in it, and me liked Sigourney as a cougar, but oh my god, what a mess.
Who do I gotta fuck to get off this spaceship? She says that in the movie.
God.
This is not. I'm not making a joke. She says that.
What about when Ron Perlman grabs the gun from that one guy and then just throws it back at him?
I know. So stupid.
Oh my gosh. And then the whole like I don't know what that scene was at the end. Like what were they conceiving something? I don't know what the fuck
Oh,
that
the
was.
the newborn scene,
Yeah, what the fuck
dude.
was that?
Man, that was a fucked up like looking creature. It looked like a giant like larvae, like like the larvae right before they like form into flies. It literally
Yeah.
looked like a giant larvae, and I was like, dude, this thing looks fucking gross. Kill it.
It was so disgusting. And then Prometheus, obviously, that was fun to watch too.
Yeah.
But no, Alien is it's a classic. It's one of the best horror movies ever made. It's one of the best sci-fi movies ever made. You know, a lot of practical effects. No one could hear you scream in space, and everyone did a great job. Obviously, Sigourney Weaver was great. Tom Skerritt, John Hurt, so many amazing performances in that one movie, and I felt very claustrophobic watching it again. And while it's not my favorite Ridley Scott movie, I still would probably consider it to be the one that got him on the map. And I think it was his first movie, so good for him for making a movie like this. And the franchise still holds up. Like I said, I enjoyed Alien Covenant. I know you did as well, Chase. And I feel bad that the movie's not doing very well financially. I hope that we get more of these movies because I really love the way it wrapped up.
I want to see. I want to see Scott finish his vision. Like
So do I.
I want to see. I don't care if like he's got to pull out a loan. I do not give a shit. You can't just stop it after Covenant and just call it a day. You have to complete whatever prequel storyline he wants to do.
Yeah, exactly. You have to finish it because if you just leave it at the way it ended, that's not good. But Alien is probably the best monster movie I've ever seen. It's like I said, not my favorite one, but it is without a doubt the most influential monster movie of I would say the last 50 years. I would say of the last like 50 years. Beforehand, probably the original King Kong or the original Godzilla or Frankenstein or what have you. But yeah, Alien is my number one.
Yeah, and just like with The Thing, Alien is a masterclass at making you paranoid at stuff that you're not seeing, and like it's the type of mood you want in a horror film where like you don't see the villain, you don't see the monster or the creature, and it's just more about the actors emoting like this fear you can see in their eyes that just you don't want to be anywhere near this fucking creature, and like it's what you don't see is actually what's more terrifying. Now, I will say, after marathoning all of the Alien films and Prometheus, the first Alien is actually the only one out of the bunch I would actually suggest just the theatrical cut. I didn't really care for the director's cut of Alien because it was literally just one scene added, and that scene was kind of unnecessary. But the director's cut of Aliens is good. The assembly cut in Alien 3 is good. Alien Resurrection, I couldn't really tell a difference anyways. So the first Alien is actually the only one out of the bunch I would recommend just to watch the original cut. But yeah, I mean, I just watched it a few weeks ago, in preparation for Covenant. So yeah, it's one of the best. Now, my number one. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm kind of a classic guy. I've seen probably 4 versions of this story. And it's still my favorite monster storyline. It's my favorite monster creature. It's my favorite monster movie. That would be the OG 1931 Frankenstein. Now it's Frankenstein, but Frankenstein, Young Frankenstein reference. Get on it. Anyways, Boris Karloff is the first one to don the famous monster, who's created by Dr. Frankenstein. And a lot of people tend to forget that. He is not called Frankenstein. It's Frankenstein's monster. Dr. Frankenstein is the scientist that creates him. Now, I was naive in high school, and I actually didn't know that until I had to look it up, and someone told me, so I felt stupid. But, once you know that, you can go punk everyone else that still thinks it's the monster's called Frankenstein. Anyways, the monster is played by Boris Karloff, and it's about the story of this scientist who creates this monster. He brings something back from the dead, and he's very deformed, and it kind of the original Frankenstein has elements of like the Elephant Man, where once this creature's created, he's let loose into the town, the village or whatnot, and people are like, it's the same mentality of like the fucking witch crusades, where like, this guy's fucking ugly, burn him, kill him, he's a monster. And this is what I was talking about, to where like I don't really care about the movies so much about the monsters, but more about the monster nature and humanity, and this film showcases that. This is a perfect example of, don't judge a book by its cover. All these people want to kill Frankenstein because of the way he looks. They think that, he's a monster, he's an abomination, and he's really, he's a confused thing. Like, he doesn't know what's going on. He's basically a newborn thing into this world where, he might walk by and, like, see a flower and, like, oh, this is really beautiful, and then, like, see this human with a fucking pitchfork in his face. So, he's really confused. He's just like a little baby. So, he's trying his best to be as friendly as possible and just to get to know the world. But then when you have assholes that want to fucking kill him and burn him, to the ground, it's kind of hard to, root against him. It's one of the few monster movies where I actually hate humanity in the movie. Like, I actually root for the monster. I actually root for him the entire time. I'm like, dude, you get out of there. Like, you don't know. You're a little kid. You don't know what you're doing. So yeah, the OG Frankenstein is fantastic. The other versions I've seen, believe it or not, are all different. So I've seen the original Frankenstein, 1931, which kind of, was a part of, like, the Universal monster movies, with, like, Wolfman, Swamp Thing, Dracula, Mummy. So I've seen this one. I've seen Young Frankenstein, which is a wonderful spoof on the story. I've seen Frankenweenie, which I actually really like, from Tim Burton, the stop-motion one. And the other one, I've actually seen... This is one of the ones I watched in high school as well. I watched Kenneth Branagh's Robert De Niro version. It is such a weird interpretation of Frankenstein, but I would say, just if you're curious, watch it. It's definitely not the best one for sure. That would be the 1931 version. But yeah, this is by far my favorite monster movie. It's always been my favorite story. I remember in high school I only read like 4 books, and this was one of them. I love the original Mary Shelley Frankenstein novel. It's absolutely fascinating. It's just a really great kind of peeling the layers back on humanity type of story, and it's just absolutely wonderful and just very vivid with imagination. I love Frankenstein. And I actually like all the versions too. Like, if you pitch me a new version in the next 5 years, I'm going to watch it. I like it, except for I Frankenstein. That was pretty bad. But yeah, that is my number one pick. Brian, are you surprised? Are you shocked that I like the older ones? What's going on through that head?
A little bit surprised. I didn't think you were going to pick someone that's much older, but hey, that's a good thing because it shows that you just don't like, the newer stuff, and
we're
stuff.
not just some crazy ass millennials that like nothing but 90s stuff.
Exactly. But yeah, also have I seen the original Frankenstein? I don't know if I have, to be honest with you. I mean, I've seen many versions of it. Like, I agreed, the Kenneth Branagh and Robert De Niro one, which was produced by Francis Ford Coppola. That's good. Frankenweenie was great. There have been many other ones. I Frankenstein was shit, but hey, believe me, not everything can work out the way they want to.
Listen, I don't mind if you take a stab at the Frankenstein story and make it more modern. It's just, it was garbage. It reminded me of like just a really bad Underworld Resident Evil movie. I was like, ugh,
I know,
please get out of here.
I know, it was disgusting, but but yeah, good pick. That's a good pick. Very solid pick.
That's a very good pick. Oh, and I also forgot that I have a Franken-Thumb, which is a part of the Steve Odenkirk Thumb spoof series. That's also a version of it, and it's absolutely hilarious. Odenkirk. Yeah, Steve
Odenkirk. What a name.
Steve Odenkirk.
His company was the best. It was the High on Paul company.
Yeah. I absolutely love the. If you guys have never seen the Thumb movies, they're so goddamn they're funny. Like they Thumbtanic, Titanic, the Blair Witch Thumb, the Blair Witch Project, the God Thumb, the Godfather, Franken-Thumb, of course that, and then Bat Thumb, Batman. So it's such a ridiculous spoof series, but I absolutely love them. They are guilty pleasures of mine for sure. Oh, and Thumb Wars, Star Wars. So yeah, that is my number one. So what about you guys? What are some of your favorite monster movies? Please comment down below my face and let me know, and let Brian know as well. Now for honorable mentions, I'm not going to spend 20 minutes like listing off everything, but just at the top of my head, if you want to go modern picks, Brian Cloverfield and Slither, and of course Aliens, Predator, Brian, just start rattling them off, man. Like I'm kind
All
of
right. Jaws, Pacific
yeah.
Rim. Pacific Rim is actually considered a monster movie, and that's a good one. I liked it. The Thing, The Mist, Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah, that would be considered one.
Cabin in the Woods, Aliens, Predator, Hellboy.
I mean, because
the Evil Dead
yes,
Chase.
Yeah, I would really consider like a monster film.
It's considered the one on Google, so you know.
Okay, okay. So the Evil Dead franchise. That's what's cool about this genre is that it could have many interpretations on what is considered a monster. Like I don't even consider that a monster film, but hey, if some people do, some people do. When I was talking about the horrors of humanity and stuff. Brian, you know what I immediately thought of was Under the Skin. I would actually consider that a monster movie.
That is definitely a monster movie.
Like
in my eyes, it is.
Yeah, humans are pretty fucking horrific in that movie. So yeah, I would do that one. Dude, monster movies they span across many types. You could have a Godzilla movie, which is basically a giant fucking lizard tearing shit down, or you can have something like an art house piece like Under the Skin. So. Once again, let us know. Give us some suggestions down below. I know the normal peeps that always comment. You guys always give me some good suggestions, so please do. Dishonorable mentions. I'm going to let Brian go first because I really can't think of anything at the top of my head. The only one I've really ever disliked on a major theatrical level, I can't tell you the absolute shock of sitting through Roland Emmerich's Godzilla going, what is this? Like, I remember, like, when Godzilla was, like, climbing up buildings and, like, running around like a fucking dinosaur, like, from Jurassic Park. I was like, what movie am I watching? So, that one's pretty bad. Jurassic Park 3 is not that good. It's just like, it's whatever. Other monster movies I've absolutely hated. Oh, another good one. If you guys have never seen this Norwegian documentary one called Troll Hunters, that one's really good. I believe it's on Netflix. That was a real treat.
Yeah, and there was the recent one, and I know you didn't really care for this one that much. I know you said it was okay. I thought it was fantastic. Colossal. I appreciate the different take it had on it. I know you were kind of meh on it, but I thought it was a really clever idea, and I just thought it was really well done.
Yeah, I'll pass. So
yeah, I understand. Not everybody can love the acclaimed work. It's totally understandable. Believe me.
Yeah. You mentioned Super 8. I thought that was fun.
Super 8 is fucking awesome. It's fucking great.
Oh, and I guess this would be a great one to kind of end this episode. A guilty pleasure of mine. I know Brian was born late into the 90s, so he might have watched them in the early 2000s. But I remember going to my friend's house. And my parents don't know this, but I'm obviously older now. But like, my parents didn't allow me to watch like PG-13 movies or R-rated movies until I was actually of that age that they were, saying. So 13 for PG-13, 17 for R. So I go to my friend's house and we watch these movies. And the first one came out the year I was born, and I watched it maybe when I was like 5 or 6. It harkened back to like Slither. So I guess this was like the OG Slither for me, which was like. Kind of an homage to like the other monster movies from like the early 50s and stuff. I absolutely fucking love Tremors. What a great guilty pleasure film with Kevin Bacon. Brian, have you ever seen the Tremors movies?
I actually have not seen those. I do want to watch them.
They're like giant sandworms that like go underground and like they eat people and stuff. It's so much fun. So yeah, I'd say Tremors is like the one from the 90s that I remember the most and I have the most fond memories of. So yeah, that's a great way to end this, unless Brian, you remember like a monster film growing up when you were a kid.
I mean, when I got older, I watched Anaconda, and that's a guilty pleasure of mine.
Fucking Anaconda! I remember that shit. Ice Cube and Jennifer Lopez. Dude, that was actually a really...
and fucking Jon Voight. Jon fucking Voight.
Yeah. That was actually a really bloody movie for a PG-13 movie. Like, that was actually really violent. So,
it was... Yeah, pretty... Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen it in a long time, but I remember when I first saw it, it was really entertaining, and...
It's so much fun. Like,
yeah.
The Anaconda literally, like, eats a person whole. It's amazing. Like, it's so great. So... so what about you guys? What are some of your least favorite, some of your favorite monster movies? I know it's not like everyone's favorite genre or whatnot, but that's okay. Like, it's not Brian and I's favorite genre. So please, like, introduce us to some that we may have missed or some of your favorites or whatnot. Please, down below in that comment box, son. Brian, what are we doing next week?
Okay, next week Cars 3 comes out, and it's also our 2-year anniversary next week, which is absolutely crazy. Cars 3 is a part of a trilogy, and I've wanted to do this category forever. Our favorite film trilogies. I am so excited to do. This is something I've been wanting to do for a long time, and I cannot wait to do it.
What the fuck is wrong with you? Like, you realize how hard that's going to be?
I know. It's exciting. This is going to be amazing.
Yeah, so I think that's a perfect category for our 2-year anniversary, which, by the way, if you guys think about it, Brian and I, because Brian wasn't on the first episode, we have done, at that point when we do this or next week's episode, we'll have done 103 episodes together. I want you to wrap your fucking heads around that. We've already crossed like the 100 mark, so yay, good for us. But that's fucking crazy. I mean, Brian, is there anything you like to say? Like, do you like how much regret do you have? Is it like at a 60%, 70%? What's going on?
100% regret, absolutely.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
I'm kidding. No, I've loved doing the show. Doing it every week has been a highlight of my week, and just we've tackled so many actors and directors and genres, and doing this one is gonna be is a perfect topic to cover for our 2-year anniversary. So it's honestly, it's a very difficult topic, believe it or not, but I'm so excited. I love talking about my favorite trilogies, and this one's going to be so much fun to do. It's going to be so incredible. I cannot wait. I'm so ecstatic. Yeah,
it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to let you guys know, just to piss you off early, Star Wars will not be on my list, period.
Well, I can't say it won't be on my list, but, we'll have to see next week.
You guys know I'm not the biggest fanboy of it, which is fine. I'll have I'll geek out over others. So, so next week, guys, will be our 2-year anniversary, which is really funny because, like, the first ever episode was over Top 5 Pixar. The first 1-year anniversary was over Top 5 Pixar Revisited. And now another Pixar movie is coming out in the 2 years. So Pixar is basically dictating our anniversaries. So that will be next week, guys. But for monster movies, please continue that conversation down below, and I'll get to you as fast as I can. But just real quick, Brian, where can the people find you online?
Twitter at FilmJunkieBrian, and on YouTube at Brian Sutfield.
That's right, and you can find me on Twitter at RealChaselee. Subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can get updates on when we post these things up. Hey, sometimes I'm nice, and Brian notices it. Sometimes I'm nice, and I'll post it up a day early for you guys. So, if you want it like a day early or on Saturday or whatnot, just press that subscribe button. And Brian and I both have podcasts on Sundays, so please check out all of our links in the description below. So without further ado, let's end this thing. This has been another episode of Top 5 Saturdays Live. I'm Chase Lee.
And I'm Brian Sutfield.
That's fucking right. See you guys next week for our 2-year anniversary. Peace out, motherfucker.